Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about why Sweden ranks as one of the most stress-free countries to live in. It ranks among the top 5 most years, but definitely amongst the top 10 every single year for stress-free living. For those of you new, my name is Shalika Marker. I grew up in Sri Lanka. I lived in England for 10 years where I worked as a nursery teacher. And for the last 16 years, I've been living here in Sweden. The first one, hands down, as a mother and a nursery teacher, has to be subsidized childcare. For the most part, childcare is free across the board here in Sweden. You only pay for childcare when the children are below the ages of 6. At nursery school, we pay 1,500 krona, which is about 150 euros for each child to be in school for 40 hours of the week. That is pretty unheard of. So in England, you're spending 10 to 20% of your salary every single month to put your children into nursery schools. That's after the government has given you a subsidized rate. Otherwise, you would be spending 40% of your salary to send children to nursery schools in England. And I know firsthand that this is absolutely true because I worked there. I've got friends who are doctors there, and they hired a nanny to look after their twin girls because it was going to cost them too much money to send them to nursery school. It is unbelievable how much we have to spend on childcare in England when it comes to nursery schools. In Sweden, we pay 1 to 3% of our salary. Even in the States, you're spending 10 to 20%, and in Sweden, it's 1 to 3, which is a huge difference and a huge stress reliever for a lot of parents because you don't have to think about where the money is coming from, a huge chunk of your salary having to go for childcare. A lot of parents in other countries stay home. One parent stays home. You see in the States, they're homeschooling their kids because it really is quite expensive to send your children to nursery schools. And I think that relieves a huge stress here on people living in Sweden, including myself. I pay a big chunk of my salary on taxes, but once the tax goes out, I'm used to getting a certain amount into my hand. I don't really think about it, but I don't have to use whatever money I get into my hand to pay for childcare. I don't have to pay for dental. I don't have to pay for schools. I don't have to pay university fees. I don't have to think of saving for university. I don't have to think of saving for healthcare. The doctor's visits are free. Dental is free, like I said, all your checkups, all your vaccines. All of the things that children need to get are pretty much free here in Sweden. Now, even the speech therapist my child went to, I never paid a bill. So all of these things I spoke about around childcare really relieves a lot of stress on a lot of people here in Sweden. And I think that really is one of the biggest stress relievers here in Sweden. The second one has to be healthcare. And from the perspective of the older generation, I mean, I'm still working. I could pay healthcare, but a lot of the older people who are pensioners here in Sweden, I think this relieves so much stress on them. And I really think this is why they live also much longer these days, because they don't have to stress about heavy hospital bills or falling sick, where the money is going to come from, because healthcare for everybody is pretty much free. Now, we have 2 caps here in Sweden, one for the doctor's visit. If you reach 1,450 krona, which is roughly about 140 euros, once you've done that for the year, the rest of your doctor's visits are free. And it's the same with medication. The amount for medication, or the cap for medication, is 3,800 krona, which is roughly about 380 euros, which I think is really, really reasonable. It relieves so much stress, especially in a lot of other countries. They have a lot of money for their elderly years. Medication when you're older can soon add up really, really quickly. I mean, you've got high blood pressure medicine, you've got diabetes, if you've got a heart condition, cardiovascular disease, all of these things. My father-in-law gets a dietitian to come. All of these things end up costing very, very little money here in Sweden once you've paid your taxes, that I think it is really such a huge stress reliever on a lot of people here in Sweden. And I am, for one, very, very grateful that my tax money goes to creating this sort of stress free life for the elderly here in Sweden. I feel like I'm doing my part, and I am so happy to do it so long as they are looked after and that they don't feel stressed out and scared of where the money is going to come from. And if they fall sick, that they go into hospital and get slapped with a really hefty bill. So I am very grateful to the system here. I'm going to be also benefiting from that when I get older, and I'm more than happy to contribute to it. And I absolutely, hands down, think that this is one of the biggest reasons why a lot of older people in Sweden are living quite long. I've got friends who've got great grandmothers still alive in 98 and almost reaching 100. It's just amazing here in Sweden. And I think the fact that you get free healthcare or very heavily subsidized healthcare has to be a huge stress reliever. And we all know that stress is one of the main reasons why people get sick, why people die young, big factor in longevity. Last one on my list, and number 3, is work-life balance. Work-life balance in Sweden is bar none. There is absolutely no argument here when it comes to work-life balance. Sweden hits number 1 spot every single year, even amongst the Scandinavian countries. It is by far one of the best countries when it comes to work-life balance, and I think a lot of other countries in the world can really take note when it comes to Sweden and when it comes to their work-life balance. Now, the reason I say it really relieves a lot of stress is because it has so many factors. Aside from the parent leave, which you get 480 days to share between the two parents, it also is a very big stress reliever that nobody expects you not to take it. Everybody expects you to take it. It's a norm here in Sweden. You don't have the added stress of coming back to work and people being antsy because you took so much time off to be with your kids. It allows for a great balance between home and work. Working overtime is not looked upon as a badge of honor or that you're doing better. It's actually looked down upon here in Sweden. The idea is that you work your hours and you go home. We have a shorter week. We have a 40-hour week. We work 5 days a week for the most part. We've got 5, 6, sometimes even 7 weeks holiday. You can take a huge chunk of it together. I've been up here in the north of Sweden for the last 4 weeks, so we've got a really good rest. You can recharge your batteries before you get to work. Once you've got your job, you've got such a lot of security. You don't have to stress about your job being taken away from you overnight. That hardly ever happens here. I think also employees' rights are really strong here. The number of breaks you can have, the flexibility you can have here in Sweden, where a lot of people work from home. It is just amazing, and really, I think, has to be one of the biggest stress relievers on everybody in Sweden, because obviously not all of us are parents and not all of us are old, but all of us have worked or work at the moment in Sweden, and work-life balance is something that we've all had the opportunity to experience. And I have to say, after working in England and in Sri Lanka, I think Sweden is just amazing. I recommend working in Sweden. You'd be hard pressed to find a country that puts so much emphasis on work-life balance. And that, I think, is a huge factor in relieving stress on a lot of people. Now, before we end this video, I do want to say Sweden is not perfect. It's not a utopia. We have stress-related jobs, healthcare, sometimes in education. They can be stressful, and they are stressful. Parents have general stresses. I mean, we've got teenagers and children who don't listen, and children with diagnoses, and you have all of those stresses as well, getting them through school, getting them to university. You don't have to pay for those things, but it still have the general day-to-day stresses of being a parent. Healthcare, you have obviously the stresses. Once you're sick, you are stressed out about your health. Even though you're not stressed out about how you're going to pay for your medication, you're still stressed out about your health. So those daily stresses we do still have in Sweden, obviously. But if you're looking at how Sweden as a country and as a whole tries to relieve stress on their individuals living here in Sweden, I think they do a pretty darn good job, because living here in Sweden is, hands down, in my opinion, one of the most stress-free lives you can live. With all of the nature, I didn't even cover all of those things that really lead to a stress-free life. Maybe I'll do part 2, but I wanted to cover these 3 big things. And if I've missed anything and you're watching and you're from Sweden, please leave me a comment in the description box below. If you've just moved to Sweden or you're moving to Sweden, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Sweden. I hope you have a positive experience. Watch all of my videos so you get an idea of all of the positive aspects of Sweden. And with all that said, thank you so much for being here. And don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, because you won't miss a video I put out. So thank you so much for being here. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.